Seritage is on the surface a company that you would never want to own if you just hear what they do. They own a portfolio of vacant Sears properties.
Yeah.
If I left it at that, would you ever even give that stock a second look?
No. No.
No one wants to own. No one wants to own a Sears property. Sears doesn't even want to own a Sears property. That's why the company exists.
Exactly. So tell me about this. I'm
sure.
really interested to hear you talk about this. Yeah.
Sure. So Seritage owns 154 properties. There's another 25 that are owned as partnerships. About 26 million square feet of space. The majority of it is vacant. These are old, falling apart Sears properties. The company was specifically created in 2015 to acquire these old Sears properties, with the idea that over time they would redevelop them into premier mixed-use assets. Modern shopping centers with retail, residential components, things like that. Couple of things went wrong. The Sears bankruptcy happened quicker than expected. So they were planning on collecting rent from Sears while they gradually redeveloped all their properties for at least another couple of years longer than they did. But the general model is to sell off the least valuable strategic assets and redevelop the most promising ones into these premier new shopping centers. It hasn't gone very well in the first 4 years. They just underwent a change in leadership because the old CEO, being honest, was not aggressive enough. There's a lot of value creation potential here. The company has 3 specific properties that it is targeting for these premier large-scale developments. None of them have opened yet. The first one in San Diego is expected to start opening to tenants by the end of the year. There's another one in Miami that's really promising. The new CEO is being much more aggressive. She plans to sell. By the way, this is a very interesting story that Seritage is the only REIT in history where the top 3 executive spots are occupied by women.
Oh, that's cool.
Pretty awesome story.
Yeah.
So she is being a lot more aggressive. Her name is Andrea Olshan. She was previously CEO of Olshan Properties, a company her family founded, and essentially did the same thing and was successful at it. She's planning to quickly sell up to 50 of those 154 properties to generate a ton of capital that can be plunged into the company's most promising assets. Right now, this is a REIT that loses money, as you would probably expect, being that like 2/3 of its portfolio is empty. It lost $34 million in the second quarter. It only has about $147 million in cash. So it can't sustain that forever without asset sales.
A good bit of interest payments, I would assume, too, on all that purchase.
Good bit of interest.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Their only lender, speaking of interest, their lender is Berkshire Hathaway.
All right. I've heard of
their only debt is a $1.6 billion term loan that they took from Berkshire Hathaway. They also have a $400 million line of credit from Berkshire Hathaway that they're not allowed to access right now. This would make them a self-sustaining redevelopment engine if they were able to access it, which is a big key point to learn. To get that, they need $200 million of signed leases in place. They are at about 125 million. Before COVID hit, they were at about 160 million, so they were getting there, and then things went in the other direction. So this stock's trading for about $16 last I looked.
Yeah.
If we knew that they would be able to successfully execute and redevelop all these, this would be $100 stock. We don't know. This is going to be a very binary outcome, either a home run or it's going to go to zero. And one other thing, and then I'll stop about this. I wanted to share my screen for a minute because they like when I use visual aids, it seems like. Let's see. This is one example right near Motley Fool headquarters in Alexandria, Virginia. They own the Sears property that was attached to the old Landmark Mall, which great location, terrible mall right now. They're about to start redeveloping this, but look at that red outline. The big building within that red outline is the Sears. The little outbuildings in the parking lot are like a Sears Auto Center. You know, most Sears had the little auto repair center. Look at all that land. Everything within that red line they own. This is where most of their redevelopment value comes from that I don't think the market appreciates. This is why they can develop this into a giant premier scale asset. They have all that land to redevelop. Their average property is 13 vacant acres, and some has a lot more than that. There's a lot of room to redevelop this space. And that's exactly what they're planning on doing. This is going to be a $4 billion complex of a healthcare campus, residential neighborhoods, a lot of potential. And this is still in the early stages. I wouldn't think this will open until 2024 at the earliest. So long-tail redevelopment potential. That's just one example. There's a ton of other examples in the portfolio. And when Sears were built, most Sears were in the premier locations in town. So you see all these falling apart buildings in great locations.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of the key to why this real estate can be so valuable.